Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Julie Helmrich. I'm a psychologist here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So let's get right to these questions. I'm particularly sensitized these days to the struggles of couples because I'm spending some time looking closely at local meaning the Milwaukee area, divorce statistics. And I really don't like how big they are. All right, so let's get to some of these questions because, as I often say, the hardest job on the planet is parenting. The hardest relationship on the planet is your marriage. Doesn't mean it's a bad one. It just means it's a very complicated relationship, and nothing else on the planet is like it. So let's get right to it. I've been married for 20 years. My wife and I have been having the same fight for 18 years. Welcome to marriage, people. Our fight is about when and how things should be done around the house. We do not have children. How do we resolve an 18-year-old fight? The reason that you're having the same fight is that you're actually doing the same thing. You're probably saying the same words. Each of you believes that you really are getting what the other person is saying, but they're not getting what you're saying, which is you're probably both right and you're probably both wrong. In other words, the way the architecture, maybe that's a good way to put it, of an argument is there are the words that are being said, and those are important words, but there are meanings beyond the words, below the words, behind the words that are significant and that are the what your spouse is actually trying to get you to hear. And for whatever reason, we don't seem to be able to hear some of those things. And usually what happens then in an argument is because we don't feel heard by the other person, we basically stop listening and try to come up with our own way to make a really, really good case for ourselves. In other words, we try to get better at arguing by getting better at making our case. So part of what we do in argument clinics, and part of what you can do with this is you actually reverse the process. It's a very simple thing to say. It's a difficult thing to master. So reversing the process is that you actually think about your spouse and you try to help them make their case against you. I know it's weird, but part of what I call it the principle of, validity and invalidity. If you're in a courtroom, it's your job to try to invalidate the other side. If you're the plaintiff or you're the defendant, you try to make a strong case to the judge and you try to refute the case they're making. In a marriage, unless you want to end up in divorce court, the thing to do is to do the opposite. In other words, you try to find places where you can actually agree with the accusation. So in other words, you try to validate your partner's side of the fight. And when people go, but it doesn't make any sense. She's just being this or he's just being that. Yeah, that's sort of not the point. If there's an ounce of truth in what the person is saying, what you want to do is validate the ounce. That's all. You don't have to go along with I'm not saying that you have that the smart thing to do or what you have to do to have a good marriage is that you have to, go against facts or something like that. It's just you're really trying to actually get out what is the meaning the person is trying to get across to you. And if they're being exaggerating in whatever they're doing, that's okay. You're still looking for what part of what they're saying is something maybe I can agree with, something that I know is true, that I know is valid, and just throw yourself in that direction. Because what happens is when couples are arguing in a way that really supports their relationship, is they really stop seeing each other as the opponent and they start seeing each other as teammates. And they start trying to help each other with the argument. In other words, it's a little like knowing in a football team that the other guy has to carry the ball because he's carrying it, but since he's on your team, you block for him. You try to help him get to where he's trying to get to. And that's what you try to do in this kind of an argument. You actually, try to help your wife get to the point she's trying to get to with you. Otherwise, you're going to be talking with me in 18 more years. And you'd be able to say exactly the same thing. We've been having the same fight. There's something that's going on. There's something she's trying to say to you, and there's something you're trying to say to her and she's not getting what you're trying to say, and you're not getting what she's actually trying to say. And the stuff around the house is one level of of the communication that's being attempted. But there's another level of the communication that's being attempted that isn't. Neither one of you are able to reach each other.